Hi, my name is Annalisa Chrysostomo, and I'm a fourth-year philosophy student here at York University. This is my second submission as a speaker for the upcoming TED Talk for 2015. My first one was done kind of out of a haste. I just didn't want to miss the deadline, but I did find some time to reorganize my thoughts. So hopefully just bear with me, and I apologize in advance that you had to watch me twice if you already watched my other video. So I serve as president of Why You Speak Spoken Word Poetry here at York this year. My second year at York, I was served as secretary at Vanier College. I'm also a leadership graduate, and both years serving on council, I've won outstanding contribution to student life. So many times, many people ask me, how do you do it? How did you balance all those things? And so I'm here to pretty much talk to you about that and maybe share with you a little bit of my experience here at York and how you kind of find balance within yourself. So as an active community member around campus, I'd say that my years here at York have shaped who I am and how I approach life in the greatest way possible. It has provided me with the opportunity to grow in more ways than I have imagined. Being a part of council for 2 years, being a leadership graduate, and even an active member of intramurals has given me so much experience and growth. So like I said, I was secretary my second year. After that, I was really excited about getting involved. So I created Vanier's first Bullying Awareness Week. And after that, I was leader of the social subcommittee. So in all of these experiences, not only did it help me thrive within my body, but it helped me evolve and grow here, and more importantly here. And so I'm here to share with you my experience and introduce to you the idea of balancing what I call the peace triangle. This is the combination and relationship of mind, body, and soul. So when you start to understand the importance of balancing these three things and how they connect with and relate with each other, I think you may find it easier to perhaps find peace within yourself. And if not that, at least be able to put a finger on what is maybe bothering you and help to work towards that. So because sometimes within all the confusion, we all get lost. And I know myself, I get lost very often, but I am able to find center again. Here's how I always find my way back. So everything has its function in the world. Your car is meant to drive, your light is meant to provide light, and your veins are meant to transport blood, etc. So when you think about the mind, body, and soul, you think about these three functions and what would be most conducive to thriving, or at least highest functionality. So your body is meant to move, your mind is meant to think, and your soul is meant to feel. Your body, for example, needs nutrients in order to function properly. That's why we have three man-made guidelines to make us more efficient. So this is where you eat the right amount of vegetables and fruits, eat the right amount of proteins, you don't overindulge, and you eat things that are natural. This introduces the idea of GMOs and artificial chemicals being put into your body, or altering chemicals. So on top of this, you're also said to at least have physical activity for at least 20 minutes. So this is a minimum. Many people don't even actually fulfill this, and you'll see why as I continue. So what you eat affects your capability to function and move. Your body is directly affected by what you decide to digest within it. And what's interesting is when you start to see how these kinds of things start to affect your brain and your heart on the same scientific basis. So when you eat healthier and work out, endorphins are released in your body that make you literally feel happier. So chemicals are actually released in your body that actually are made to make you feel happy. And this obviously has an effect on the soul, or let's say in this case the heart, where you feel it overwhelming in your chest and sometimes within your whole body. So as a result, this feeds your mind happier thoughts. You can say the contrary of the exact same, you can say the same thing of the contrary. So if you were to eat bad things, negative thoughts, etc. We'll talk more about this relationship later, but you can already see how this can work. This relationship works together. So let's move on to your mind. It's meant to think. Descartes believed that thinking was the essence of the mind and the medium to which rational thought passes through. He says, I think, therefore I am. So I think, just the same, what we think and how well we think helps define who we are. And so if the mind is meant to think, we must exercise it in such a way that allows us to be the most functional it can be, right? So how does one do this? By feeding the mind nutritiously, by finding and filtering out the unnatural knowledge. In one of my third-year criminology classes, we actually learned that media has many biases that target certain demographics in order for the power class to benefit. So things like this kind of manipulation, I would call this knowledge is not nutritious, so innutritious. It's like eating a fatty burger. It's lazy and thus makes us lazy in the lack of actual activity. Our mind, if we were to overindulge especially, is incapable of deeper and more critical thinking due to this inappropriate kind of exercising. And how does anything get solved or done under these conditions? And I don't think that anything really does. So this innutritious knowledge is bound to produce this lack of understanding of solutions sometimes. It almost introduces negative feelings about the world, or if there are positive ones, they're not substantial enough, so they are just fleeting because they lack substance as well. So who are our role models, and what issues are being addressed, and are they important? Unimportant things only seem to satisfy our thinking for a second, and then we crave for something meatier, or for you vegans and vegetarians, just something more satisfying, if you will. So alternatively, some people just indulge in it repetitively, and this is because it becomes this kind of addiction because it's a comfortable level of thinking. It's not challenging. So let's move on to our soul is meant to feel, and this is one of my favorite ones. The way to really exercise this function of feeling, I think, is empathy, and this is feeling with other people. So a lot of the times there's a misconception of empathy, or at least there's misinterpretations or different interpretations of empathy, and it can be described as putting yourself in someone else's shoes. But for me, I think empathy is a little bit deeper than that. Empathy is feeling with someone else. So, for example, if I were to try to relate to somebody else's situation, I think of what if that was my mother, my brother, my papa, or something like that, someone that I loved. Putting someone else in those shoes can give you a type of empathy that I think is only attained from exercising the original kind, which is putting yourself in that, which is a little, I don't want to say selfish, but it is very direct, so it's easier, right? So sometimes those thoughts can make you feel more than you ever could about yourself. And these kinds of interactions are exercised through practicing this application in your everyday life, and hopefully intimately more often. So a lot of the times when I'm in a cab, for example, especially when I'm alone, I ask the cabbie life questions. So sometimes it'll be about his life, but often I'll try to make it a little bit deeper so that they don't feel uncomfortable revealing any details of their life. So some of these questions will be like, do you believe in fate? Or would you live forever if you could? And if you wouldn't, well, why? And so every answer makes me listen and feel with them in a way that I can't describe. When I leave the cab, I actually feel like I got a taste and feel for that person rather than any detail, which doesn't encompass someone's character whatsoever. So I know you have human connections are important to exercise because they are our ultimate drive to be virtuous. So this is to be good and do good. Somehow I feel every human has this desire, and so this is why the purpose for this speech is to kind of find the necessity to place within our promotion of the good life this idea of feeling, because we already see a promotion of good health within your body and also educating yourself, but I don't think that there's so much of a scientific basis or even just a solid theory that incorporates the soul and how that kind of plays into your everyday happiness and how everyone else should feel as well. So another thing that I kind of wanted to approach was this relationship between the body, mind, and soul, and how these things kind of work together and how you can kind of create that balance and then finally find that center and core in order for you to be peaceful and optimistic, because I would call myself an optimistic person as I approach life. So if you want to we'll look at them separately. So you have the body and the mind. So when you look at the body and the mind, this is a more direct translation. So your mind directly tells your body sends signals down to actually consciously move. What becomes interesting within this one is when you're learning and you're consciously telling your body to do something in order for you to learn, which starts interacting with your feelings and your mind. So we'll move on to the soul to the mind because the body and mind are a little simple, but the soul to the mind is interesting, and I find this is one of my favorite ones. The relationship too is because I'm very passionate about writing, and language is your way of expressing what's going on in here. So the expression of what you're feeling and what's going on in your soul. And a lot of the times people have that disconnect, but if you exercise it, it makes it easier for you to relay what's going on and you find that relationship, right? So for me, words are interesting because you have this refinement of this language and this desire to really be understood about what's going on in here. And then you move on to the soul, to the body, and this one is really interesting because you have this disconnect of anything, any intellectual capability. So when we talked about learning at the beginning, you have this conscious desire to continue learning, right? But when you get lost in something something such as music, and you aren't consciously thinking about the next move you're doing, you're just flowing with it. That's your body's translation of the soul. So these translations of all three of these things and the relationship of them help you create some kind of balance as you see what the benefit of all these other things are and how you can kind of treat them and feed them nutritiously. So at the end of the day, when you look at this relationship, you should ask yourself, what are you feeding yourself? Are you feeding yourself good food? Are you feeding yourself natural, good knowledge? And are you feeding yourself good human connections? So to give a little background as to how I kind of thought about this, my experiences. So like I said, my years here at university have really helped me and really see the benefit of being within an educational institution. And one of them, so the first year, I see the academic side. I wanted to do my master's, I wanted to do my PhD, I wanted to continue doing that and thriving in my intellectual capabilities because I've always been very interested in academics myself. But then as I got into my second year, I was a secretary. And because I was a little bit more shy in that kind of setting, I see now that how important it is to socialize. But in that kind of setting, I had other people inspire me to work really hard. And then I went to leadership and I was inspired to work beyond my profile. So as a secretary, you just take minutes. And for myself, I started this Bullying Awareness Week in order for people to kind of empathize with other people and kind of provide a safe environment. That year, our team won Outstanding Contribution to Student Life. And then the next year, I had newer goals to reaching other positions within council. And with that, I just knew that I wanted to go hard. I just wanted to do everything that I could possible. So I entered into intramurals, played about 8 sports throughout the year. Still, we're getting those solid A's and B's in my classes, and I definitely was going above and beyond my positions, again, sometimes even working 2 of them. And with that, I helped kind of implement this idea of having to do charities, and that was very interesting to work towards. And so those 2 years, I would say, were one of my most satisfying years in terms of how I actually exercised and pushed myself to understand the world and how everything kind of works from different aspects. But one thing that I do want to say is with this triangle that you want to kind of balance, it can be strong, but if you put a line in the middle, you always want to be centered. And that's one thing that I forgot to do at some point when life throws obstacles at you. Of course, you get out of it and you forget which things to balance or how to balance all 3 of them. And so this idea of self-care, I think, should be introduced as well as looking at this triangle and producing this kind of happiness. And again, this optimistic view that things will get better and that as long as you try to work on these 3 things, you'll see that they'll all come together as long as you make a conscious effort to do so. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my whole speech on the mind, body, and soul. But I hope that, if anything, if I don't make it to be a speaker, I hope that this kind of even influenced you to kind of see how maybe you can work on everything or how well you actually are doing with your life and maybe why you are so happy. So thank you again for the opportunity. And I hope to hear from you. And if not, I will still see you there. Thank you. Bye.